guess that took a little bit of time. Sorry about that to everybody out there who's watching. We didn't mean to disconnect there. That was kind of crazy. I don't think I've ever had that happen on any shows. That was pretty awesome. Legendary.
And by awesome, you mean completely annoying.
Yeah.
It's the curse of Allie.
Yeah.
Casey.
Oh my god, it is. It so is. I skipped out the show last week to do the 100th episode for Chronicles of Tyria, and I've never seen so much Twitch problems. They couldn't broadcast anything. I think we cut out 3 or 4 times. I'm cursed.
That is all. Okay, so now when we disconnected, JC Pro was talking about the new a change to the map that he was looking based on some of the things that happened with Destiny. What was the difference in the conquest? That the score was calculating up slowly.
Yeah, like the score for holding the points calculates slowly over time. But where the points were coming from was that doing things on the map like getting kills, or they have like special ammo to capture, that gives you points, and it was being multiplied by the amount of capture points you had.
So what you're saying
holding
is
at the time.
if they were to so the 3 capture points that they have, if they were to take that conquest mode, and then if you hold one and you kill, say, one of the lords, on any of the maps, one of the secondary things, it would give you a bonus point as opposed to just adding a secondary point.
Yeah. So let's ignore everything that's currently going on with PvP. Like if just killing somebody with no points held was 1 point, and then if you held each additional capture point you hold, if you killed somebody, it gave you an additional point. So the maximum you could get was 4 points for killing somebody. That would be how Destiny would work. So
wouldn't that lead to more snowballing games though?
I would assume so, but that they had the special ammo and stuff that you could do around the map that also added to points and special. Taking from that, they would have to add more secondary objectives. You would have to try it out on a map that had enough secondary objectives, essentially. So something like if the creatures respond more often on not Foe Fire, Niflhel. If the creatures respond more often, and then you could use those to build score versus how many capture points you were holding. I mean, it would be a hard thing to implement, but it was a completely different take on Conquest. Ideally, I'm just trying to suggest something that would make Conquest refreshing for people.
Here's my thought. I think each map should have a different objective or ending goal.
Yeah.
Each map should have its own variable to it that tie into the secondary objectives. The one with the Lord. Is that Forest? The one with the Lord? Okay. No.
Legacy of Foe Fire.
Legacy of Foe Fire. So Legacy of Foe Fire, if you had to capture 2 for each of the capture points that you captured, if it added the ability, either it added defense for your castle in the back and your Lord, and then it also took away some of their instead of they would have archers on the wall. If you had 1, you'd have an archers on the wall. If you had 2, then you would have reinforced gates. If you had captured all 3, then your Lord would become super powerful and be able to one-shot people. But you know what I mean? It would add some effect to it. It would make it a big wall. You'd have to be able to get this way. If somebody rushes in and they do a Lord rush and you capture all the points, they couldn't kill your Lord instantly. And then the Lord should actually have actual boss. He should be almost a boss level. It would take some time, and you would need 3 or 4 people to take him down. That to me, that would be cool. That would give you some reason to play it. It also ties in some PvE to it, because it would make it almost like a dungeon type of a thing. Except you have the opposing team trying to kill you off each time.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I would love to see something like that, because Blue actually tried to do an old guild versus guild, let's go and rush the guild lord, and it literally just became speed running the guild lord. It's how can we kill the gate the fastest and kill the lord the fastest? They just ignored the entire PvP aspect of it.
Right. Right.
Yeah, they just okay.
So that would also incorporate both the conquest part of it. What do you think? I mean, Casey, would that get you in to actually play a PvP match still now?
I don't know. The reason I don't play is more just because there's a learning curve, and the learning curve is for me is a bit difficult because I'm so got that PvE mindset. But I think once I get into it, and also I need variety. So yeah, that would definitely get me more into it if there was a variety.
Casey's camera is frozen too, so for those of you who are wondering why she's staring in the same spot for the last 10 minutes.
Wah, ha, ha, ha. Am I freaking you out?
David, what do you think? I mean, do you think that would add like some variety? You think that would increase the PvP viewership, or do you think that would kind of just, it doesn't really, that interest part of the game interests you, doesn't interest you at all?
I think it would. I aside from PvE, I play World versus World. That sounds like something you would see in World versus World. So I think you'd get a lot of players from that style of gameplay. Maybe look at SPVP a little bit more.
Yeah, I think plus it would increase the challenge of it. Like you wouldn't see so many bunker effects. I mean, you'd still have your single bunker, but you want to have like 5-man bunker teams. I think, especially because as each map changes, you would have to change your team composition or your team, your strategy for each map. Like really the only one that's fun to watch in terms of conquest mode is the one with the catapult. What's he called, JC Bro?
That's Kylo. It's my
Kylo.
favorite map too.
Yeah,
So.
like that's a fun one to watch, especially if you get a guy on the opposing team who's like really good with the catapult. Like then it becomes hilarious to watch people try and dodge the catapult, and you have to work on the timing, and there's all these other things that come in, and then now you have to add in having to take down the catapult, and you always have like one Mesmer or Elementalist whose whole job, like main job, is to grab the repair kit each time that the catapult goes down and bring it back to them. So now if they added points to that, catapult hit stuff, that'd be a lot of cool. That'd be very cool as well. But I like your idea, JC Bro. I like the idea of adding a lot of variable to PvP. I think it would really strengthen. It would strengthen the enjoyment of the game because you wouldn't feel like you're doing the same thing over and over and over and over again. So which Legacy or straight conquest mode it gets annoying after a while, like you said. I mean, you get bored with it. That's why the kill or be killed courtyard, everybody enjoys watching it because it's something completely different. So.
Yeah, and the courtyard brings out actually a whole lot of world versus world roaming style builds at certain like levels of play. Like, I mean, the top players that are recurring on top teams are always end up making it to the finals, but because they play together all the time, I'm assuming, so they know they have better communication and that sort of thing. But like when you see people playing like pistol dagger, Condi thieves, like you would see in World versus World, or like Rangers when we go axe, dagger, sword, torch with like Beastmaster builds. That's something that's really prevalent in World versus World. That's like roaming. That's now getting incorporated to another area of the game that wasn't considered like good or good enough to be in the conquest mode in PvP. So when you have something else, it makes more builds able to be run, and then it adds up. Like it brings new players. Is that where I'm getting to it? Like you have variety and everything you need to please a bigger audience.
I like it. I like the idea of making some nice changes. That's a great point, man. Like you've really helped the show today, man. You jump in with the Bloodstone, and then you finish up with the awesome talk about ways to change PvP to make it more viable, more exciting. Because you don't need the same thing, especially since the same thing they have is really boring to watch. And that's, honestly, that's the biggest problem. Like, when your PvE and World v. World streamers outdraw by significant margins your PvP streamers, then that's, I think Guild Wars 2 is probably the only game that I know of that happens. Like, even in World of Warcraft, which has infinitely more boring PvP than Guild Wars 2 has, where it's you watch for 30 minutes as people like kill and heal each other a million times. Even that, their PvP crowd has more viewers than their PvE crowd. But Guild Wars 2 is really the only game that I know of that's currently around where the PvE crowd draws, and the World v. World, like Shenru and those guys, they draw more viewers by a significant margin. Like they draw 300 to 500 viewers every time, while the PvP crowd is usually between 30 and 50. And I think if they have to do something to bring back that excitement. I think the only time that you have really a lot of excitement is on the Tournament of Legends, is really the only one that brings a lot of viewers in. And I think that's...
I saw a post, they were talking about what game modes we want to see, and they took notes for things like King of the Hill and even trying to create a MOBA type map.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, like ArenaNet understands at this point, I hope, since those are the notes that they're taking, that we're tired of conquest. Like, it's just, even the players, like, even if we're still having fun with the PvP, it's like, oh, great. Okay, I'm gonna sit on this point again. Like, it's just so mechanical at this point that like most of us that still play PvP just block out the fact that it's still conquest.
Yeah, I see, even in solo queue, like I see more people fighting off of the points, and then like you'll have one guy who just his whole job is sitting on the point. Everyone else is fighting off of it. So, and I understand. I mean, I think they do need a lot more variance to add more of the enjoyment. But I think that happens though as a game grows older. Like even their dungeons, and I think a lot of people were really tired of the season 1 story for a long time before they focused on doing some really exciting and different things to it, and then it became fun. I think in our very first episode, I think KC was commenting on that. You know, for a long time, the season 1 story was very stagnant. It was very boring. Nobody really wanted to do it, and it was more like the personal storyline where like either you, I don't think Casey. Do we agree that nobody really enjoyed the personal story?
I think we agreed that everyone didn't like Traherne stealing the limelight.
Okay.
I was playing it again recently, like on my 80 character, and I'm like, Jesus, Traherne, like. This is my story. This is my personal story, and everyone's like, "Yay, Traherne!" Even your character is like, "Traherne, you're so awesome!" Like, stop it, Ava.
Well, my best part.
To...
I'm a necromancer. I'm not clapping for Traherne ever. He's got a great sword. I'm taking that from him. It's like, my goodness, I don't want to clap for you. I'm a necromancer. I rival death, and I would play like, you know, I'm living in Death Shroud. I'm fighting things. I killed everything, and you stood there like a, you know. Anyways, everybody knows how much I hate Traherne. Like, I got really excited because someone created a post that in the season 1 storyline you get to kill Traherne, and then I found out that was a lie, and I was like, no! That would have been the whole point of finishing it.
Well, like for events, especially PvP events, Guild Wars 1 had a simple system in place. I don't understand why they don't have it. I think the big thing besides conquest that we're lacking is exposure. Like even to our own community. Like we're talking about the Tournament of Legends on the forums and the website. How many people that play the game actually go to the website on a daily basis, like the forums, or even care enough? It's like, oh, Tournament of Legends, PvP, don't care. But Guild Wars 1 launched with a spectator mode that everybody could go with. I know they said they can't do that. But, like, we had the Hall of Heroes, so every time somebody won in the Hall of Heroes, it would announce on everybody's chat, this team just won in the Hall of Heroes. It's like, so eventually at some point you get curious, you go, what's the Hall of Heroes? And then you watch a match. It's like, oh, well, I mean, I want to be announced.
You're describing exactly my playthrough of Guild Wars 1, which was like, I felt so much more involved in Guild Wars 1 PvP, even though I never did it. I never played any PvP, but just simply because like the spectator mode, and like they would announce it, and I'll be like, oh, this guild has a really nice logo. I'll go and check and see if they're winning, and I'll go and observe the match, and then I'll end up watching people who have the same class as me, and then I'll see their builds, and I feel a lot more connected to the PvP, a lot more than I do in this, because honestly, like you said, I run with the mostly PvE crowd, and no one is talking about the tournament. Like, I honestly didn't even know it was on until you guys told me today. So, you know, there's absolutely, you're right, no exposure to the different sort of communities in the Guild Wars 2 area.
David,
go ahead.
David, correct me if I'm wrong here, but didn't they, when the game started and we were in beta stage and then during the launch, didn't they have random announcements of different events that were going on throughout the game? Like they would announce, like, oh, hey, everybody meet at center, it's the Halloween event or something like that. Like there were announcements that went on during that time so that you would make sure you headed there. I remember when beta ended, they had that big event that everyone ran to see and that thing. But during that whole thing, there were always like comments coming across the general chat. I mean, in the big, like across your screen that you didn't see before, and that's all gone now. Like I don't remember the last time that I played that an announcement came across my screen.
For maintenance.
But I mean, what if they just did that? Like, hey, you know, guys, live on Guild Wars 2 Twitch channel, so and so just took out so and so in the team thing. I mean, that would be.
exactly
They
what
don't
I'm
actually
talking
have to
about.
have spectator mode. It's just a way of letting everybody know that the PvP match is going on. Because
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I don't know half the time that there are tournaments going on. If I'm playing the game, I don't know that Miss Pedia's tournament's on. I don't know that I didn't even know who 55 HP Monk. I didn't know 55 HP Monks won another one, and I wanted to see the next one. It's just when I'm playing, I don't actually pay attention to what's like Casey. I'm with Casey. Like when I'm playing, I'm doing my PVE, and and I'm complaining that there are no great dungeons for me to fight. But outside of that, I mean, there's no way I know during the gameplay that anything is going on outside of that is really cool or something that I should check out to bring in more viewers.
Yeah, exactly. So like if you had that, like you were saying, like almost like a server maintenance thing across the top, or it was like, oh, 55 HP Monks just won this week's ESL, like something like that, and then check it out here, twitch.tv with the channel. That would just be incredible. And I think that that's a two-way street, though. Like, yes, ArenaNet probably wants it to be more popular than it is, but they're not helping us really do it as far as I can see, as far as exposure goes. Like, they never put up any of the like big streamers' websites on the front page. They never go, hey, check it out here, Blues like channel, Twitch channel. They never say that type of stuff. They never announce that there's even an ESL ever happening. The devs, as far as I know, don't really even acknowledge the ESL openly. You have to like search through the depths of the forums for Grouch to say, I'm watching today.
I think it's because and this is speaking from personal experience as well. I really like the ArenaNet devs. I know Grouch. I've known him for quite since I started playing the game. And though I don't always agree with him or get along with him, he's a good proponent of the game. But I think one of the things that they always told us when we used to always talk about, and they used to show up on our chat, is they don't want to play favorites. They don't want to see like they're seen as favorites. And my counter argument was always, there aren't enough people doing this for you to actually be seen as favorites. Like, who cares if some dude on the forum is like, I'm mad that they showed up on your podcast, but they want to show up on mine. Like, who cares? I mean, it's about getting the game exposed. It's about showing a group of people that you care about their thing. But that was always their argument, was that they didn't want to be seen as favorites. I'm sure Casey has heard that same argument from them, though Chronicles of Tyria probably gets more pub from them than anything else. But
It's funny you say that. With the PVE, they're a little bit more giving in the sense that they will advertise Wooden Potatoes and Matt Visual quite a lot. But other than that, I haven't really seen them do. I think they've done once or twice in Chronicles Tyria. They've advertised it, and maybe like once or twice Guild Mag. But it's very few and far between if they do it, but I've definitely seen a lot more Wooden Potatoes and Matt Vigil. But you're right, I don't rarely ever see PvP stuff very often. It's always retweeted from somewhere else that I see the tournament stuff.
But even the World v World guys feel like they're left out, because really the only thing that's announced on the first page or anything like that or on Guild is the Living Story or PvE stuff, and especially since World v World is probably. Like, did you guys know that Season 1 World v World ended? Do you guys even know who won?
Oh, no, I have no idea.
And that's it. I mean, that's what we're talking about here. Like, we don't know. We didn't even know it ended. Like, Season 2 ended, actually. I think Season 2 ended. So we don't know who won. We don't know who's in goalie. And it's buried, like, in the very back far corners of the Guild Wars 2 website. But, I mean, that should be something that they, like, that goes across the entire game thing. There should be, like, hey, check out, here's the end of Season 1. Here's the last finale play. You can check it out on our Guild Wars 2 YouTube. I mean, that should be something they should really focus on it. Because I want to know who won. I want to see the game. I want to see how it ended. Like, how did Season 2 of World v World end? Like, does anyone know? Was it a boss lord that finished it off? Like, I mean, what finished it off? What was the big killing play?
I think you have to remember is that the community manager, I'm not sure if she does it by herself, but it's Ruby, and she manages the Twitch and things like that. I do not believe, like, I don't think I know Ruby personally, and if Ruby, if you're watching this, I'm not claiming to know you, but from what I've heard and people that I know who know her, she's a very PvE oriented person, and it's not the case that she's purposely trying to exclude PvP or World versus World, but perhaps maybe it doesn't come into her vision as often, or that sort of thing, and maybe that is the problem, that even maybe to her she doesn't quite see what is really important because she doesn't do very much PvP herself. So maybe they need to get someone who's more PvP orientated into it.
Well, I think it's just a communication thing. It's the World v World guys saying, "Hey, look, our season's about to end. Can you, let's put on the front page, of the website, like the website. Hey, you know what? Here's this, Tarnished Coast. No, actually, they didn't win it, but I think Hedge of Dinar.
I think it was Blackgate. Was it
Yeah.
Blackgate who won the NA?
Corey, we won.
Who did?
Who? Jay Quarry.
Hey, Corey, we won.
Jay Quarry always wins.
Yeah. Touch
But-
came in second.
But think about that. Jay Quarry should have been on the front page of the Guild Wars 2 website. Jay Quarry just won. I mean, that's news. That should be big news. Like, it should have been
Yeah.
Jay Quarry wins season 2. Check out their, though from what and I think one of our podcasters made a great point. I think it was Bob, who's been on here before, when we were talking about having things posting things on Reddit, and he goes, well, look, the only way to get Guild Wars ArenaNet or Reddit to upvote something or to talk about it is make sure you throw Wooden Potatoes and Mad Visual on it. Even if they're not a part of it, if you just use their name, boom, you instantly become more popular. And it's because it seems almost like they're playing teacher's pet with them, which is okay because they have this large audience that they participate with. And I love Wooden Potatoes. I've talked to him for quite some time. And he's a great guy, very nice guy. And he does a lot of good work for Guild Wars 2, but I think I can understand why people feel like there's no point in them actually trying to do something community related when they're not getting noticed and all the publicity is going to a certain group.
You gave me, and I don't know if Arena could ever do this or not. I'm going to link what I'm talking about so you have a visual. I mean, I know it's Reddit. I know it's completely a different game and everything, but take a look at the sidebar on the right. They have a list of every single live channel on Twitch and their own website, Major League Gaming, of course. But they have a list of every single live channel. If ArenaNet could implement something like that, not even necessarily if they could do it on there, like when you first hit play and you see all the news announcements, but if that's even possible, but just on their website, just to show like everybody in the community who's streaming right now, that would be huge to
That is such a can of worms because even though the people they're not affiliated, and if someone swears on a thing or does something inappropriate on their thing, then Guild Wars has it advertised on their website. It's something legally, I think, as well, a big problem as well.
That I guess that's true, but is there even a sidebar like that on the Guild Wars 2 Reddit though?
No.
But the Guild Wars 2 Reddit, I don't think it's ran by ArenaNet. It's ran by.
Well, that's my point. So it's a third party. So I mean, maybe a sidebar on something like the Guild Wars 2 Reddit would work a little better. That way, it's not directly affiliated with ArenaNet if there was any concerns like that. So just some exposure to some more of the community. I mean, to be able to just pull up and go, hey, look at all the people that are live right now. I wonder what I want to check out, outside of having to go to Twitch and then clicking on the Guild Wars 2 link and then seeing everybody live and wondering who they all are.
That's a good idea, yeah.
So Tandem KG on the chat says that he's fairly sure they posted. They did post the ending result for World of the World, but it was in the news and it was quickly buried by all the different things in Lion's Arch, which it shouldn't have been. I mean, yeah, it was a big event, and yes, it was on the news, and yes, they tweeted it, but it should have been on the front page for a week or something like that. On that front, when you type in guildwars2.com, it should be there. It should have been there. This was a big time thing that whenever they have a season living story update or anything that goes to the front page and sits there for a while, this was, at least I'm just speaking from the perspective, I understand why World v World people feel like they're isolated from everybody else. To me, that's what it was like. One of the guys said that he played from launch. He got bored by the non-permanent stuff. How would the game do for me today? He got tired of temporary living story. They made some Lion's Arch is gone.
I should quickly say that everything from season 2 onwards is permanent.
Yeah.
So that's just something they're saying. They've realized that people don't like temporary stuff, which I honestly had no problem with, but I get why people didn't like it. But from this moment on, it's permanent.
That's awesome. I'm excited about season 2. I think a lot of it. I think it's still funny that if I log in, I have a character who's still sitting in Lion's Arch. If I log into that one, there are still people walking around Lion's Arch looking for the bank and stuff. It still makes me laugh every time.
Yeah. My favorite is, where is the Mystic Forge now? And 5 people link the waypoint to the Mystic Forge.
It's on permanent macro. And Tandem says again, like I agree. I like this point. Someone in the chat pointed out that there's no official live stream for World v World content, and I think there absolutely should be, especially since we're talking about it's a contest now. It's tournaments. There's stuff happening. But wait, I mean, it should be on the. I mean, there should be something going on. Like this is the big tournament. I mean, and I know World v World will be hard to stream because it's very large. There's nothing. But like they could find a way to do it where they could say, hey, you know what? Here's the top match of the day. You know, we'll share this for an hour. You know, and it just shows like the top match playing and these guys fighting, and it could jump from web. I don't know. I'm not a computer guy, so
There's a lot more to it with how we feel. No. I guess it's more by ArenaNet. I don't know if I haven't logged in for 2 weeks, but I still don't know if we have our rewards for that tournament.
Yeah.
Oh, we do.
Do we? Finally?
So people were so upset about it, but they gave it to us on the 17th of June. They gave us the rewards, and they gave us an extra 100 tickets, I think. Sorry for the bother.
Yeah, it seemed like it was just a mess. Like, I don't know if it's... I think part of it, too, might be that so much of their team, or so many members of their multiple teams, are working on the PvE stuff, that sometimes the World versus World and PvP, or SPVP, they don't get as many updates as PvE does, and I think that might be why. Maybe they have most of their people working on PvE. And maybe want PvE to be the main part of their game. Like going back to all the videos before the game launched, they kept talking about PvE and how they wanted it to be a game about story and stuff. Not so much with the PvP.
yeah.
So maybe they are trying to put, but they do need to do something because.
There was a quote from launch where ArenaNet did say that they were going to launch Guild Wars 2 with the PvP being e-sport ready.
Well, okay, we
They
talked
did
about
say that. I know. I'm just saying they did say that. Though, but
If we want to talk about stuff that they promised, we've got a laundry list.
I mean,
But
as far as like that type of stuff goes, I would just, if their perspective has changed, I would just like them to be clear. Like, I just want some clarity on it. Like, if they're focusing more on the PvE content right now, I mean, obviously people are going to be upset, but if they just came out and said, look, we're trying to establish this in PvE right now, and that's what the majority of our efforts are on, what can we do other than accept it? Like, it keeps people from speculating and getting more frustrated because they're not hearing anything. And I mean, I know, like, I don't mean to sound frustrated all the time. I just want to point that out. Like, I've been playing since Prophecies. I know I complain a lot, but I love the game. I have an 80 of every profession. I have so much time invested in both games. I just want to see it succeed. It has everything it needs.
I don't think people are so much upset with like the promise anymore with the promises that were made that they ended up not being able to participate. I mean, there are some people who are still upset about that, like JC Bro here. But outside of that, there's not a lot of us that aren't. I think a lot of us are more concerned about what we see as base level incompetence, like just, and that's probably a stronger word than what I need to use, but just things that should be taken care of, like, or planned ahead that everybody could see coming, that they don't do, like today, like I think we talked about earlier, like earlier this week, there was. I got an email that told me how not to die in Guild Wars 2, which I guess all new players got, and I was like, man, I don't play for 3 weeks, and they think I'm gonna die every time I log in. I mean, like what in the world? But I guess it's supposed to be something that you get, that new players supposed to get. It was an accident that came out. But when that happened, like nobody who's played Guild Wars for 2 was surprised that something so simple like that went out to the wrong people. Like it didn't surprise anybody, and is that a reputation that ArenaNet has? I mean, Casey, I mean, don't you think that's a bad? I mean, we all love the game, and it's a fun game to play. But the fact that when you do something like that, it should be like, oh, this is hilarious, it's a joke, but it's not a joke to anybody who actually sees it. We're all like, well, that go figures, it is ArenaNet. Yeah.
Yeah. Personally, like, that sort of thing doesn't really bother me too much. I don't. I think there's a really big disconnect. Like I was talking to my friend the other day, who had a lot of the same complaints as you guys, and he played game a lot, and he loves the game. Um, but he had the very similar complaints, and I was kind of saying to him that I believe that ArenaNet is still a small company. It's still Guild Wars One company. Guild Wars One company was a small company, and it had a small company mindset. And it still operates the same way. And and I was saying to him that, in these small companies, these sort of things happen, and people make mistakes, and that's okay because it's a small company and they see the people rather than the corporation. And see, there's benefits to being a corporation because they don't make mistakes like that. But even though Guild Wars 2 is playing in the big pool, there's still a small fish, in my opinion. And saying to him that it does have the really bad points of that these mistakes happen and you get frustrated and you see these multiple things piling up, but at the same time, compared to any other MMO I've played, Guild Wars 2 doesn't feel like a moneymaker. It feels like the game that was made out of passion by real people rather than a corporation's game set out to achieve money. And I think there's certain trade-offs when you get that, and having those sort of mistakes and things like that. And while I understand it can be frustrating, and it seems like you can get so much better quality from these bigger corporations. In the end, I think Guild Wars 2 is still, well, ArenaNet, I should say, ArenaNet is still a small company with a small company mindset.
And can I just bring up a point? Like, I don't blame them for any mistake. I'm actually a comp sci major, so I understand. Like, if I had somebody breathing down my neck about every little mistake I made in code, like, it'd be the most frustrating thing in the world because you love what you do. So, I mean, but then there's things, and I mean, for some people, it might have been perfectly, like, okay, like, they wouldn't have had a problem with this. But I was one of the people who logged in after the Season 2 rewards were distributed, and didn't see them in my inventory, only got the extra 100 in my mail, and I went, oh, great, I still didn't get my rewards. Like, and then somebody told me, oh, well, you have to go to the battle historian and speak to him and say you didn't get your rewards. That was not straightforward at all.
Yes.
They did not send out mail about it. They're still answering questions on the forums about it.
Yeah.
It's like that things like that where it's like it's not necessarily a mistake. It's more like foresight, hindsight issues where it's like, how did you not have the foresight that people would have no idea what to do to get their rewards when they logged in?
Especially if you don't follow, like we talked about this at the very beginning. Things are posted on the website that are not illustrated in game, and rarely do people ever go on the website as to the rate that they play the game. I mean, like, I visit the website once every couple weeks, mainly because I was told that my version of sarcasm was not welcome on the forums. But
well, I mean, the thing about this particular one was that it was, as far as I know, it was hidden away in the patch notes. Like, before, like, it wasn't even, I mean, it was, like, hidden in the patch notes. It was, like, a one-liner in the middle of a bunch of patch notes, and they had to make a follow-up statement afterwards, saying, okay, in order to get your rewards on the forums, and even then, they said the forums projected is only about 10% at most of the playing community. So that means
I never go there.
Yeah, exactly. So that means like 90%, potentially 90% of people logged in and had no idea.
Yeah. I logged in and I was like, I still haven't got the box. These things aren't valid. I can't buy the tickets. What's going on? And so I just Googled Guild Wars 2, what's wrong with my tickets or something, because I know that someone's answered it somewhere. I just did it Googling, It's the same thing as you do, like, why is my cat coughing? Or what's this? Why is my, hair purple or something like that? I do it with Guild Wars 2 and it comes up, but not everyone thinks like that. Not everyone really knows how to problem solve answers in that way, and especially if you're younger or, I don't know. But I agree, that definitely should have been something that could be communicated either by in-game mail. They should have done an in-game mail, like, this is how, end of the season, this is how you do it.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think some of our podcasters were laughing because they were telling me that I think it was Bob who said he logged in, he got the tickets, and he went to go talk to the historian, but there was no historian on his server yet. There was no historian. So he was like, okay, I got tickets, but I got no historian to talk to. Okay, I guess I'll just have to wait. So
I'll just wait here until he turns up.
yeah, and I guess that's those like everybody understands that when there's a massive patch, that there will be bugs. Like, hey, this broke. We thought we fixed it. We didn't. Like, that's standard patch bugs. Everybody understands it. Nobody cares. I mean, you get frustrated at first, especially when they finally fix something and then it's immediately broken on the next patch. So, or they take away your favorite ability. You know, like the ability not to die with half a fraction of Death Shroud. You know, that was my favorite thing. Jump off a cliff, Death Shroud. Thank you. Like that, when they take that away, that's all part of the game. I understand it. It's part of it. But it's the little things that, you know, you should know this is a big event coming down the road. It's a small part of the big event that is a huge deal if it's missing. You know, I mean, that's something that should have been noticed. It should have been, like, they should have planned for that to be happening. Those type of things are things I think that frustrate longtime players and people who want Guild Wars 2 to be successful. It's not so much the big things that that get screwed up that everybody knows happens from time to time in every game. It's the small things that they don't tell that are, you know, that they try and brush away as not really that important, that are a big deal to a fraction of the community. Like you guys said, there's 90% of the people. I mean, it was a huge deal that nobody knew about this historian thing except for people who like delved into the patch notes and actually memorized what it said. Like I haven't logged in since the season 1 ended, so I don't actually have to worry. Now I know I can go to the historian, so luckily I tuned into the show and know I have to get to that thing. But you know, and it's just that's the way it is. I mean, that's the crazy thing about it. So I mean, yes, the fact that there's nothing to do in PvE once you get to 80 and you get your legendary and ascended gear, there's nothing to do. But that's not what Guild Wars 2 is about. Like, if you play Guild Wars 2 to play PvE at a high level, you're not playing Guild Wars 2 for the right reasons, because that's not what the game's about. And yes, ArenaNet is a small company with a small company mindset, but they have a very popular game. And those little things are the big issue. Like, checks and balances have to be in place before they launch these things, and they're not. You know, like, how in the world did they release the map with the giant gun and not realize that if you fell off, you could fall indefinitely and die? Like, you couldn't get back up. Like,
Yeah.
people were falling down there, and they were stuck down there. You couldn't get back up, and you couldn't really kill yourself unless you ran and found the monsters. And, like, that was when that launched out. That's what happened. People were jumping off the edge. They were falling, and then they were just sitting there, or they were stuck. I mean, those are basic things that shouldn't happen when you launch something like that. I mean, getting stuck in a wall, yes, that happens, but
When you try to teleport through walls, you're gonna end up in a wall. That's like when it happened during the tournament, the last tournament of Legends, and like one of the thieves tried to shadow step up to the roof on Kylo, and like it teleports you through the roof, and he got stuck in the roof. That's kind of your own fault. I mean, I know it works 99% of the time, but you know that terrains weren't supposed to like be gone through. Like, you can just know that. And I mean, I know that there's all types of abuses. Like in Kylo, as a Spirit Ranger, I can res people up on the middle point in the building from underneath of it. Like, no line of sight. The Spirit just AoE reses in a 320 range above them too. Just res everything. It doesn't matter where you are. So it's like, I mean, yeah, there's some exploits that are definitely unintentional, because when you're I would imagine are unintentional, because when you're a programmer, who thinks like, oh yeah, he's just going to try to shadow step through the wall. Like, I need to make my code shadow step proof.
well, you know, that part's okay. I mean, that's understandable. Finding exploits is part of the game. So, anyways, let's quickly change for our last topic before we take off and we sign off. We've been on. How come it is whenever I do a show, it always lasts like half an hour to 40 minutes longer than? All right, so we got one last question from the chat. We'll take that one. I like it. And all right, so we'll start with Casey, then we'll go with David, and then we'll wrap up with JC Bro. What do you want to see next in Guild Wars 2 for PvE level 80 content? So, though I know Guild Wars 2 isn't so much about level 80 content, what do you want to see in Season 2 for level 80 content? Because we know it's probably not going to be level 80 content totally, but what do you think, Casey?
I was gonna bring it up actually, just quickly, because someone mentioned it, and I was gonna be like, oh, you know, Endgame. In one of their streams, they mentioned that they want living story to be end game now. And so they're going to change the way that the living story works, and so that living, I don't know if you, I know you've been away forever, but there was this journal thing introduced that was basically living story is going to become in your journal, and it becomes like personal story, as in it's replayable. And you can, and they're talking about, you buy, if you miss out on season 2, you can buy it in the gem store and replay season 2 again. And no one really knows how they're going to do it, because I think the way they're going to do it is release this new map, and then it becomes like personal story, and there's instances, and I think that they will have big Zerg content, but it would be less, the focus will be more on personal story. So they're saying that once you complete, I think what they're trying to say is once you complete your personal story, then you go into the living story as a continuation and as an end game. So they use those words that living story will become the end game for Guild Wars 2. So I guess what I'm hoping to see for PvE content for, past level 80 is more lore, the focus on the personal story. Personal story had tons, it had bucket loads of lore, man, and there was so many things discovered in it that were just like going to Abaddon's underwater temple was just like, what? And seeing his statue and seeing his mask was just so cool, and they made efforts to explore lore in personal story. So I'm hoping that living story will make that effort to explore lore in such a more in-depth way, and like David said, more in-game, like exploring it more in game, seeing stories explored through the personal story. That's what I really hope to see. More lore.
Basically you want more level 80 solo player personal story expansion parts.
Yes, definitely. More solo
story.
stuff.
Jeez, you're gonna make it rough on me. Now I gotta finish season 1 story.
Yeah.
I don't want to finish my personal
as I
story.
said, I'm like, you haven't actually finished it, so what are you gonna do?
David, what about you? What do you got for us?
Well, they did say that all the content would only be playable by level 80 characters. You
Nice.
can unlock it at any level, but it can only be played by a level 80 character. I would like to see more than one new map. I think the game really needs that. I mean, I know that this isn't expansion style content, but one zone, I'm afraid it's going to be really small, and we're going to just breeze through it really fast. I'd be fine with multiple smaller zones as long as we see more maps. That's probably the thing I'm looking for the most.
Okay. What about you, Jason, bro?
Well, there's a few ways for me to handle, like, I want to see like essentially instance content. Like, I liked instance content from Guild Wars 1, so like dungeons essentially, but I mean Maguma Jungle's coming out and they have all the lore they need for Rot Scale. Give us a throwback, give us some sort of new undead dragon, if not Rot Scale, because there was lore that said that Rot Scale like never died somewhere, I forget. I mean, somebody will correct me if I'm wrong, but like, go ahead and make that like an elite instance dungeon content, like not just like, okay, we're gonna skip all the trash mobs. Like, actually, that's another thing that I hope they do, like, for level 80 content though. Like, we had what was it, the tower with the crate, all the crate, and like
Nightmares.
Yeah, the Tower of Nightmares. That was really fun at first. Like, it seemed like elite content, like level 80. All right, I'm gonna go through, and then people realized, well, if I just run through it all, I can get to the end and just get the rewards. I mean, that's the thing. Like, if they can create some sort of incentive where like all the content is level 80 worth, and like it's on that epic of a scale, and make it so that it's not skippable, or that there's an incentive not to skip it, that would just be incredible to me. Combine that with like one new dungeon, or even more than one new dungeon, but like one is enough to start with if they get it right. Like some instances, that type of thing.
because I mean the big storyline of this is Mordramoth, and I was talking to my husband and I'm saying the lifespan of MMOs is so temperamental, and they, Guild Wars 1 is not even 10 years old. How long are they going to try and drag out this dragon storyline? Because I think as soon as they killed all the dragons in Guild Wars 2, that's pretty much it for Guild Wars 2. So I was saying, like, in this Leaving Story Season 2, I don't think they're going to kill Mordramoth in this season, but they're going to get damn well close. And if they do kill Mordramoth in this season, there will definitely be a dungeon. They will not make Mordramoth anything other than a dungeon. But we all live in hope that it won't be anything like Zaitan dungeon. Fingers crossed.
Well, we still do have to expand to Cantha and Camadon at some point. And I, for one, am super excited for any sort of Camadon content, especially with Palawa Joko
Yeah.
up and raining tear, and just to see all the old continents. To me, like, I'm not even normally an explorer, but the fact that I've already played through it and seen it all, and I just want to see how it's all changed, like, that'll
Yeah.
bring in, if that's level 80 only, every single Guild Wars veteran will come in and want to see it, and all the Guild Wars 2 people that aren't veterans will want to compare it to how it was lore wise.
I want to have a new race. I want to play as a Quagon.
That'd
I want to be an elementalist Quagon.
be fun.
Another thing, because I just got finished. I just got finished.
Ignore my
Go-
point here, dude. That was awesome. Okay, go ahead, Jason.
I'm going for a world exploration. I just finished Kaladin Forest. They have the little Tangu city that you can't get into. Like, there's an entire Tangu
Yeah.
city where they're outside guarding. It's like, there's speculation they might be a playable class, but I mean, maybe make us at some point make that an instance where you can get into, or make it, if they make that a playable race, that'd be amazing too. Because
It was
eventually
pretty-
they're gonna.
It was pretty much confirmed in this book that they were meant to be in the game.
Yeah.
And they did everything for it, and I'm pretty sure they did most of the city. And then they went, you know what, we're not going to finish this in time. We'll just kick out the Tengu. So I reckon they're keeping it as a little card for if they ever do want to do an expansion, they've got the Tengu. So
Yeah.
I definitely believe that.
I want them to give me a reason to buy another character slot.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. Just give me something different nowadays. All right, so for me, I think in level 80 content, everyone knows how I feel about the PvE in this game. I think I'll agree with Casey, and I'll compare it to something JC Bro said earlier. I think Dragons in Guild Wars 2 is like in Guild Wars 2 PvE is like the capture points in the PvP side of Guild Wars 2. Everybody's tired of them. We are. I think that's why Scarlet was such a big hit. Not only because she was the first like bad guy that we had that actually had character, but that it wasn't a dragon. You know, it was an in-game character who wasn't a dragon. And though I think dragons are like easy money in terms of art for role-playing games. I mean, it's you throw a dragon at it, everyone's like, oh, cool, I'll go kill the dragon. It feels cool. You feel awesome. But I think in Guild Wars 2, I'm tired of dragons. I'm tired of seeing dragons. But for level 80 content, what I really want to see is a guild-focused raid type of event that rewards these guilds that take the time to put together groups and comps and 10, 15, 20 people and do those things like they do in the open world environments. Like I think what's one of the things that, like in this mega server stuff, that a lot of the guilds had problems with was getting just their guys to do the event. And I want to see Guild Wars 2 reward the guilds who stay together and organize and work and do these things for themselves by giving them some sort of a content that they can unlock. Like, let it be a guild-focused unlock. Like, one of the guys has a key. He's able to unlock this instance. Everybody can go in. At least initially. As the storyline progresses and Living Story grows, you can unlock it for everybody. But until that point, like, give us something to move forward to. Like, in order to get to this instance, you got to finish this one, get the key, and then unlock the next area to fight the major boss. Like, that would reward the guilds who focus on doing things that they need to do. They want to build up their guild related, and it would allow people to feel like they're more part of the guild. And though I know, Casey, Guild Wars 2 wants it to be a full community and not you to be just in love with your guild. There are people who that's all they care about is the people in their guild. That's what they care about. That's what they want to do. I think we ought to reward those people with something beyond the really bland and really boring guild quest that they have now. Like that's what I want to see. I want to see something that it's something for you to strive for when you get past level 80, like new. Let it also be like let the instances have gear that you can only get there. Like they're already making sure you have to complete things. You know, like you have to complete stuff in order to get your achievement point and stuff like that. You know, so that you can get to the next thing. So let's do that with the guild one. You know, in order to get this gear, you have to complete this dungeon. You can't buy it on, buy it via the game, via gem store. Eventually it'll be free the gem store, or like you can get it. Like right now you can get gear 70 different ways. So I want to focus things down so that if I win a piece of gear and thing, I can feel special, run around and show JC Bro how much better I am than him. So.
Well, and you just made me think of, I hate to extend it any longer, but Guild Wars 1 did unique skins for bosses. And I mean, it was instance content, so that was a lot different. Like everything was instance, but like you killed a boss, he had a super high chance to drop a weapon that was a unique skin based on that boss in a lot of cases. If you added stuff like that into the game, like you would have people in hordes. It doesn't have to necessarily be open world, because then you'll have people sitting there like, wow, going, gotta kill this thing over and over again. But like if it was an instance, like the last dungeon on top of the dungeon vendors, like the last boss in the dungeon could drop a unique skin that like had the theme of that boss. I mean, people would love it. They would go, oh, I want that unique skin, especially with the wardrobe system now, because it wouldn't just be on that character. They'd get it, and they wouldn't be able to sell it on the trading post for all intensive purposes, and then it would unlock across their account. They could show off they did this and they got this.
Yep, and add scaling bosses. Like as you advance the boss level scales. If you bring in 10 people, the boss fights that much harder. 30 people, like the boss fights. Anyways, that for me, that's what I want. That's what I'd like to see. That would make me want to play the game more often rather than once in a while. I'm a very competitive person. I got my character to 80, my main character. There's nothing more. I got the gear I want. I don't want anything else from it. I don't care about my living story because it was so boring. Not living story, sorry. My personal story. Mainly because I hate seeing Traherne. Now I have to finish it if things go your way, Casey. And if it does, I'm going to hate you. But other than that, I mean, it's the way it is. I mean, that's part of it. That's the way I am. That's the way I'm built. I love competition. And I want something that challenges me, that makes me feel like I'm participating in something. And I like 10, 20, 30-man content. Like it doesn't need to be 30-man, but let's say it's 10 to 20-man. Like you can bring in 10-man, and as more people come into it from your guild or from your group or party, then it kind of the boss scales with it. I know that they kind of did that with some of the open world bosses, but I think if they make it an instance where people part of your group, 5, 10, 15 guys can come in, who knows, then that would be a great advancement for the game. It would make it, it would bring in a lot more PvE players, it'd bring in a lot more content, and and just have. Anyways, that's what I want to see. I think it'd be a lot of fun, at least for me personally. I'm not a big lore fan, even though Casey's brought a lot of lore into my life, and it's been quite exciting. But for those of you who watch the show, thank you. We appreciate those who showed up live. We appreciate all those who are out there playing Guild Wars 2 or streaming it. Check out Kem Sorley. His Twitch TV is he's another World v World guy. I'm going to keep encouraging you guys to check out these World v World guys. They don't get a lot of love, at least in my opinion, that they should. They're some of the biggest players in the game. They promote the game more than just about anybody else, except maybe Casey and her PvE crowd. But check them out. There are a couple websites. I didn't prep a website beforehand, but do check out Kem Sorley's stream. And for YouTube, check out ours, YouTube SOAC Gaming. Thanks. How long would it take you to get to 80, Sad Panda? Depends on how often you play and what you do. But
I played my character. I created her about a week or two ago, and I did map completion combined with killing, like using boosters, and I got her to level 80 in a week or two, I think about 2 weeks, and I finished my personal story in the same time. If you do personal story, you level up really fast as well.
you can also cheat and just get your crafting, have another character. Some of them buy all these crafting mats, get to level 40 within 2 hours. So, and then you just level the rest of the way.
Don't forget PvP leveling. They have tomes of knowledge now. I have 84 sitting in my bank. No caves to use them on.
But if you just want to like play the game, go old school, and just kind of level while running around, about 2 weeks. That's about right. About 2 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, mine was hardcore power mode. If you're just doing it casually, it'll probably take maybe a month or two.
Okay, I don't think it would take that long.
Yeah.
I guess if you're just not new playing, maybe, but
Mm.
like, that's true. I don't even really look to see what's going on around me anymore now when I'm leveling. I just more things to kill, new quest, more things to kill, new quest.
My poor husband's trying to do map completion, and I go with him, and I'm like, "Ooh, this doesn't have a point of interest, but this cave looks interesting. Can we just go in there and see if there's anything interesting?" And we go in there, and there's like a veteran boss or something. I'm like, "Oh, I didn't know there was a veteran panther," and I'm also happy because I found something new.
It took
It's
me
like,
a
can we
year
go
to.
and do the heart now?
It took me a year to find the cave where the two kids are playing tag in.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that was there for like a year. Like, and then I was just like walking around with my ranger, and I was like, "Oh, look at this!" Because ranger is like the most boring leveling class there ever was invented. Yeah. Send my
I will-
pet, wander around. Thank you.
I will confirm as the Ranger podcaster.
It's so boring. I got the hyena just so I could do like just so I can activate something randomly from time to time. Oh, cool! Now I've got 2 hyenas, and I keep trying to get 3, but I haven't been able to do it.
I mean, a different topic entirely, but half the Ranger weapons are designed with their auto attack being the highest DPS.
Yep.
Sword, short bow, long bow. It's like, congratulations, you can auto attack your way to 80.
Yeah. Yay.
The longbow is the best. You don't even have to like. That's what I'm saying. Like so boring. Like, auto attack. I don't want to push a button. Okay, someone's getting close to me. Who cares? Anyways, that's the end of the show for today. I think we're done. That was 2 hours. Man, I go too long sometimes. One of these days, I'm actually going to keep this show to an hour. But I'd like to thank everybody for watching. Thank you for this 2-part episode. And we are excited to be back on Into the Mist, your Guild Wars 2 podcast. Thank you, MMO.